Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Canon Chatter TV with me, Stephen, and I am joined tonight by my wonderful, my happy as always co-host. He doesn't like to talk too much and isn't going to be angry about the events of the other day. G, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, I'm happy. I wasn't happy over the weekend, but I'm a bit more smiley today. I'm good. A bit tired, obviously. Return to work and that after the bank holiday weekend, but yeah, no, I'm really good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I've calmed down a lot since Saturday. Obviously, that's why we never do straight away. We never do reaction shows. We always like to sort of take a bit of time, take things, get it into perspective, and calm down a little, and sort of weigh it up in the light of day. It's very easy to get caught up in the emotion of things. So it's nice sometimes to sort of step back and, you kind of see a lot of other reactionary things and we tune in and we watch other people's channels and see what people are saying. And it is very tempting to jump on and get reactionary and angry. And obviously, we'll come on to it. There was so many positives from Saturday, but there was also so many negatives, and you were left with a bitter taste in your mouth after the way it went. But yeah, so it's good. I've calmed down. I've sort of relaxed and got away from it a bit, and obviously coming back to it today, I'm ready to sort of talk about it now in a measured fashion. And there's so much to talk about. So yeah, I'm good. I had a day off work. Back tomorrow. It's strange all this having to go in. COVID cases still on the rise, but it doesn't look like we're locking down. So we've just got to keep ourselves protected and do the best we can.
Yeah, funny how we've got to go. We've got to go to work. But just doesn't look like Liverpool really want to go to work, though, does it?
No, well, this is it. And you know what? We'll come on to that in a bit. But do you know what? Enough said. What we'll do now, we'll roll the titles and we'll start chatting.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
Okay, so as I say, welcome back to Canon Chatter TV. You may notice that it is just me and G this evening. And that is more than likely how it's going to be just for the next sort of week or two. Lottie is fine, just before anybody asks. I think she probably will be tuning in and watching the shows, but she's just asked for a little bit of time off. She just needs a bit of a breather. She's had such a busy back end of last year, with being on so many shows, work, being on our shows, being on other people's shows, and doing our blog as well. She just needed a wee bit of a breather from it all. And we're more than happy to oblige, and we'll look forward to having her back with us again soon. But you know what? We all need a wee break now and again. I did it myself last year for a couple of weeks. I'm sure G at some point will have a couple of weeks off. And it's nice to just get that wee bit of time. So before we sort of start into talking about the City game, I just want to sort of explain something. There's not going to be a massive amount of graphics tonight for people to sort of look at. You are just going to have to look at mine and G's pretty faces, which, to be fair, it's a plus for you guys. But you know what? We really enjoyed the show last week, our end of year show, where we just were completely unprepared. And it's not that we're unprepared tonight. I just kind of feel there's so much to talk about that it almost doesn't need to be broken up with graphics and stuff. And quite often the graphics are there not only as a sort of to break up the screen a little, but it helps me to remember the talking points.
Yeah.
But I kind of get the feeling that, you guys in the chat, as always, will not let us forget any of the talking points from the City game. And there is so much there. But before we come on to that, let's have a wee chat about some of the other stuff that's going on around the club. And firstly, transfers.
Yeah.
So it's breaking news tonight that it looks like Ainsley Maitland-Niles is on his way to Roma. on an initial loan. Now, unsure at the minute. I've seen varying reports as to whether there is an option to buy and or there's not an option to buy. But rumored sort of about $500,000 loan fee and $500,000 in bonuses and stuff, depending on things he's hit. And they're going to take on his full wages as well.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, given that we have just lost El Neni and Party to AFCON, leaving us with Lukonga and 34 as our only sort of first team midfielders. Obviously, we know we've got the likes of Charlie Patino and stuff. But whether it's worth risking him in Premier League games or not yet, I don't know. So it seems a strange one to let Maitland-Niles go unless there's something sort of in place already. I mean, what's your thoughts around this one, Jay?
Yeah, it is surprising, and I think the whole Ainsley, situation is just a weird one, because it's like, if we go back to obviously, his time at Arsenal, playing right back, many Arsenal fan, even to this day, I've kind of tired of talking about it, but because I know he doesn't want to play there, but I think many Arsenal fan, kind of just wished he kind of accepted that, he was a better right back than he was a midfielder, and because he could build a career there, obviously before the emergence and arrival of Tomiyasu. Obviously, we had the whole fallout over the summer where, he had put something on Instagram about not playing and being unhappy. And by all accounts, he had cleared air talks with Arteta, and all of a sudden was, back in contention, for starting, because, a proposed move to Everton fell through. So it's a weird one because, every time I've seen him this season, and albeit it's been very limited, a couple of sub appearances here and there, he has looked good. Attitude's been right. Everything's looked, in place. I haven't really sensed any kind of animosity from him or, him feeling somewhat unsettled. But I think with this happened really quickly. I know there were rumors, but it all kind of just really excelled today. But I think for me, it tells me two things. I think the first thing it tells me is that he isn't necessarily part of Arteta's long-term plans as a midfielder, that is. And I think the second thing it tells me is that all bar a miracle or some really poor, business decisions, we're in the market for a midfielder. Those are the two things that it tells me. And I know a loan out of the club, for the rest of the season doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have a future at the club, because he is still under contract. But I just think, given how limited, we are in terms of our midfield resources, if we're still willing to let a player go who does play in midfield, that tells me that he's just not part of the long-term plan for the club. And given, again, because of the limited resources we have, if we're willing to let him go, that surely means that we're either in the market for a midfielder or we already have a ready-made replacement coming in. So it is what it is, really, with Ainsley. It's kind of got to that point with me where I kind of wish he had a future at the club, but I just can't see it. But now I'm just very interested to see what happens next. Who's going to come in, whether that be on a permanent deal or whether that be a loan deal until the end of the season. So yeah, that's pretty much what it tells me. What are your general thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say anything different from what you're saying. It's strange, that we kept him in the summer when he was busting to go. But then it was strange that we kept 34 when he was busting to go as well. So, I think obviously it came down to the recruitment. They worked hard getting 6 players in, and, I know we kind of, other clubs in the past have managed to get more players than 6 in at once, but there was a lot of time spent on those deals, from all accounts. So we obviously, Arteta obviously felt that if he let them go in the summer, he'd be too light. Yeah. It's good to see it starting. I mean, this is only today's only the 3rd or 4th of January, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's good to see that if the deals are happening, they're happening early. Which albeit it's an out, but as you said, and as I've said, it can only be an out on the basis that there's somebody coming in. Yeah. There's no way we can risk going, with 2 central midfielders in the squad. Albeit White could jump into midfield if needed.
It's not ideal, though, is it?
Yeah, but I mean, then there's rumours today as well that Newcastle want Holding, El Neni, Aubameyang. I think there was one other. In Kedia, maybe it was. I can't remember, but there was like 4 players that they were potentially wanting. So it's interesting. What do you guys in the chat think? Let's have a look at some of the comments here. Keith, evening everyone. Evening Keith, how are you? Daddy Faz, evening guys, evening. Good to have you with us. Keith, given the positivity around our summer recruitment, I can only assume with something concrete lined up, preferably the decent Bruno Guimaraes. Absolutely. Take him on a heartbeat. Happy New Year, guys. From the other Keith, thank you, Keith. Happy New Year to you. Really good to see you again. Evening, guys. And Liverpool are a disgrace and an absolute joke. Yeah, we're going to come on to that later on. And Daddy Faz, Bruno Guimaraes incoming, fingers crossed. You know what? I really hope so. He's someone I've wanted at the club for a long time. And I said this before, even before he went to Lyon, I wanted him. I think we missed out not getting him. And, you know, we could have been further forward than we are. But I think, and we'll come on to it a bit, obviously, when we're talking about the City game. I think, you know, midfield, yes, we are going to have 2 midfielders, but even that aside, even when Partey's back, even if El Neni's back, and we have 4, we still need a massive upgrade.
Yeah.
Partner Partey. And listen, there's no hiding my discontent and my dislike for number 34. And we will talk about that. But
do you think
we do need a massive upgrade?
Do you think with the Ainsley obviously loan out to Roma, do you think that's got anything to do with the fact that, you know, at one point, you know, from what I remember, we turned down quite a handsome fee from Leicester. I think it was in the region of 20-25 million at one point for Ainsley.
Wolves.
Was it Wolves? Okay.
Wolves, yeah.
So do you think it's got something to do with the fact that obviously since then he's not been in the team, and right now we probably wouldn't get anywhere near 25 million for him. So do you think it's to do with giving him playing time so we can get maybe close to that benchmark price again?
Well, so we turned down Wolves. He then went on, you know, he stayed with us. He became an England player. At that point, you know, he started a few games for England. So, you know, he's now a fully fledged England international, albeit he hasn't played because he, you know, not getting the team. We then sent him out on loan to West Brom for half a season, brought him back. Everton then tried to sign him during the summer, and we wouldn't sell him to Everton. You know, we decided to keep him. And now all of a sudden we're letting him go again, probably at a time, well, not probably, but definitely at a time in the last 2 years where our midfield is now at its weakest point with only having 2 other midfielders. Yeah. So, I mean, there has to be someone coming in, but there has to be something there, and that, especially if there's no obligation or no option to buy.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind it? You know, is it to potentially increase his value? But then Roma will lowball us, because look what they did with 34. You know, the lowballed us on him. They wouldn't pay the money that we wanted for him. So
there's no guarantee he's going to play for Roma as well.
Yeah, but I think from all accounts he will, and I think he's sort of been told that he will be playing, and he wants to sort of go and have that same sort of impact that Tammy Abrahams has been having. And from our point of view, it's probably not the worst thing in the world getting rid of him to another country. You know, because you hate to see, so you know, it's like if Aubameyang was to go to Newcastle. Yeah, great that he's off our books in terms of that money, especially if he's not going to be playing. But do you really want to see him play against us for the next sort of 2 or 3 years? No. And that's obviously provided they stay out of stay in the Premier League. But I mean, I think if they got the likes of Aubameyang, they would have a very good chance. So yeah, it's interesting. It is a tricky one. Keith also saying for Bruno there, Newcastle have no pulling power and will be the richest championship club next season. That's from Daddy Faz. Now they have, by all accounts, agreed a fee tonight for Kieran Trippier. So it's around about 12 million, I think, plus bonuses. So
good signing
for them on his way there, which is it's an interesting signing. I know Eddie Howe
Mm.
worked with him before. He signed him at Burnley, I think it was.
Yeah.
He was manager of Burnley. He signed him, so they have a good relationship, obviously. And obviously Newcastle struggle in defence, so it's it is a good signing. Trippier went and he won La Liga and stuff, so it's strange that he wants to come back, and especially to the likes of Newcastle. You do wonder that, especially when he'd been so heavily linked with United. And when you look at the state of Wan-Bissaka, you'd kind of think that United would still be looking for someone like him. Keith can't rely on 34, but yeah, you're right, probably money. Good signing, but more quality needed if they are to skip. Yeah, absolutely. I'll say one thing. We haven't really talked about it much. Do you think we did the right thing selling them Willock? Because he didn't exactly go on there this season impressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We did the right thing selling Willock. They just didn't do the right thing signing Willock, on reflection. I can understand why they wanted to, because he went there and he literally made, he literally gave them a season. He gave them something to cheer about. So I can definitely see why, they paid the big money for him. One could say it was probably somewhat of a reactionary signing based on form, because we know players, can go for a rich vein of form. Lingard did that at West Ham. It's very similar to what Willock did at Newcastle that season. But yeah, no, definitely that was an absolute brilliant bit of business, I think, from Arsenal selling Willock. Very similar, and I'm not saying Willock's Iwobi, but very similar to the Iwobi transfer in that, when a rival club or another club offer a certain amount of money for a player that has potential but probably will never ever warrant a first team spot at Arsenal, you've got to take you just got to you got to bite their hands and just take that money. And I think right now, I know there was a lot of debate at the time. A lot of Arsenal fans were kind of split. Obviously, him being an Arsenal youngster, etc., being a player with potential. But I think if you was to honestly ask any rational Arsenal fan right now, it was an absolute brilliant deal for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Got to really. Newcastle need defensive signings. Daddy Faz, yes, 100%. We did good business selling Willock. Lottie, evening Lottie. We robbed them just like it will be in Everton. And Keith, not great for Joe or Newcastle, but we got Odegaard for 5 million. Yeah, I mean that's essentially how it looks. And that was crazy. That's now looking to be a bit of a steal, really. We hung on for Odegaard. And I think that was good business in the end. He's turned out to be a better player than a lot of us were giving him credit for.
100%.
Keith, evening Lottie, Gio Gunnar, how are you? Higher standards, great decision on Willock. It was, absolutely. So the only other one I want to touch on is in terms of transfers, and obviously a lot of rumours around two strikers. One is Isak. And one is Vlahovic, or Vlahovic. At Sampdoria, and the rumours are Fiorentina. The rumours are that we have bid 55 million plus Torreira for him. And if you believe what the likes of Fabrizio Romano and stuff say, that it's not a case of there being an issue in terms of the fee between Arsenal and Fiorentina. It's that he doesn't want to come to Arsenal. So I don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily believe everything Fabrizio Romano says, because he has been wrong in the past. I mean, he did put out a video of United's board have met and sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with immediate effect, and then he had to rescind it because they hadn't actually. So he has been called out in the past, but what's your sort of thoughts around this? For me, if we've made an offer, we generally as a club don't make an offer for a player unless we have an indication that the player wants to come. So I kind of think, well, why would we be making an offer if we know he's no interest in coming? What would be the point in it?
Yeah.
If he is so adamant that he doesn't want to come to Arsenal. But at the same time, if he doesn't, for me, I don't want him. So,
yeah.
what's your thoughts?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think with the the football journalists and stuff, they're only as good as their sources. It's like it's one of those things where obviously there's a real kind of hierarchy in terms of like the journalism on Twitter, in that Fabrizio, David, Ornstein, whatever his name is, they get the vast majority of stuff right, and it just means that they have better sources than lots of other journalists. They tend to break, do a lot of the breaking news with regards to transfers, but they're not always, they're not always in that kind of inner circle. The information they're given, it's given to them, by people within the clubs, whether that's the club that's buying, whether that's the club that's selling. So they might not even have the correct or the accurate information. So I think that's first and foremost. I think, yes, we do, I retweet what they tweet out. I am interested in what they have to say and what they're reporting. At the same time, I'm not taking it, absolute, engraved in stone, in that's, factually the situation. The situation behind the scenes could be very, very different. And that's no disrespect to them. It's just what I said, they're only as good as the information they're given. They've been wrong in the past. You look at some of the most recent Arsenal transfers, for example, the Partey deal. Nobody saw that coming. Everybody basically said Partey was going to be staying at Atletico Madrid. One, Arsenal never had the money, and Atletico Madrid were not going to accept an offer for anything less than his release clause. And lo and behold, lo and behold,
I did say he was coming.
Yeah, you said he was coming, and we got him. So they've been wrong in the past. For me, in terms of him as a striker, I've not seen. There was a time when I watched a lot of football outside the Premier League. I watched Serie A, La Liga, the French league, and if I take a particular interest in a player, I might start watching the games. I have to be honest, I've not seen a massive amount of him. Obviously, I've seen compilation clips. I've seen his stats, which are fantastic. The same for Isak. Watching him in the Euros, etc. They're both, really good players with high ceilings that I believe are better than what we have at the moment. I wouldn't necessarily say they were better than a firing Aubameyang, but Aubameyang has not been firing for a long time now. So in terms of what we've got at our disposal, which is the likes of Eddie, Balogun, Lacazette, and an unhappy Aubameyang at present, they are going to be a massive upgrade, which one we get. Hopefully, we get one of them. In terms of either or, I'm not. You know what? To be honest, I'm not actually massively that fussed. I'm having a very different perspective on Arsenal's recruitment now, based on what they did in the summer, because I was not thrilled with any of the signings that Arsenal made this summer. I felt really underwhelmed by the vast majority of them, and all those players that I felt underwhelmed about are absolutely smashing it in this Arsenal team at the moment. So, when I see players that we're actually linked with, I'm kind of reserving my judgment, because I've kind of, in a way, I'm kind of, I've kind of reinstalled my faith in Arteta and Edu, and I just think to myself, you know what, whoever they want to bring to the club, I'm willing to kind of give them. I'm not going to jump the gun and write them off or criticize it. I'm going to give them a chance to kind of come in and see what they do. But both players are really, really good. I don't massively have. I think if I had to pick, it would be Vlahovic over Isak. I just think he has a little bit more to his game in terms of his strength and his hold-up play and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of the whole, they don't want to come to Arsenal and stuff like that, I'm just kind of taking that as a pinch of salt. And I agree with you. I think, if we're led to believe, what's being reported, that we've bidded in the region of 70 million, cash plus player exchange, then we're not going to do that blindly. We're going to have had some kind of intel, that there would be some kind of interest from the player and from his party. So it's interesting. I personally don't think any big striker deal is going to happen this January. Does your opinion differ to that? Do you think we potentially bring in one of the big boys this January?
I think we need to. I don't know whether we will or not. And I'll be honest with you, I will differ slightly from you in that I think Isak is a better fit.
Okay.
Because I'm going
Right.
to disagree with you in terms of you saying about the hold-up play and stuff. I
Mm.
actually, if you I'm not a big one for stats and stuff and like assists and all this sort of nonsense and what have you. But if you look at stats in terms of where they play and their influence on the game, although Isak this season only got like 4 goals and 1 assist, I think it is, in La Liga, his all-round play is actually much better standard than Vlahovic. So for me, I would go Isak. I think he suits what we need. You know, he's more in the mold of a Lacazette, and I think he's played with the likes of Odegaard and stuff before. You know, and they had a good relationship before. So
that's a good point.
So yeah, it's hard to know, but whether we'll sign any of them, I don't know. I think a lot of it will depend whether the likes of Eddie or Lacazette leave.
Yeah.
And I know there's a number of clubs interested in Eddie at the minute, but I think he'll use the fact that his contract's running down to try and get a higher offer somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, I don't buy for 1 second this whole thing of he just wants to play football. It's about the money. Because if it had just been about playing football, he would have gone to Palace in the summer. So, well, listen, I think we'll leave the transfers there, and we'll start to talk about the City game now. But I'm going to fire through some of these comments because we have loads of them firing in. Gio Gunnar, hi fellas. Lottie saying, hey Keith. Smart by Odegaard. The Mr. Arsenal podcast. Evening, Ryan. Evening all. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Ryan. Keith, don't want players that don't want to play for us. Absolutely. Ryan also saying Liverpool are pissing them off now. Yeah. We're going to come on to that a wee bit later. But I seen your video earlier on, and obviously, I commented on it. Daddy Faz, I would hang on for Haaland in the summer. Agent Odegaard is on the case. I would love that, but
that's the dream, isn't it? That's the dream.
Yeah. Russ, evening, Russ. How are you? Good to see you back with us. Hi, chaps. Hope you're all well. We are indeed. Cannon FC and evening, fellas. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. And thank you for your retweets and stuff of the show. We really appreciate that. Keith, if he wants to play for us, then we should get it done. If we've got to talk him into it, when we should walk away because he'll only end up at the usual suspects in 2 years. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, Arteta said himself that he shouldn't have to talk players into wanting to come to play for Arsenal. Yeah. So, Gio Gunnar, I think because of our Champions League spot is not sure, and Vlahovic surely wants Champions League football. Who would not want to come to Arsenal? Well, I mean, I agree with that, but there are silly people out there. Keith, sub at Cannon FC. Cannon FC, we can't buy these rumours wholesale. These journalists have to write things for us to want to read. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and you were watching any of our sort of rumour mill shows from last summer, we did often say that, we don't believe half of what we were talking about, but we enjoy the drama of it. I think it's like a good soap opera. Cannon FC, big up, man, like mostly Arsenal. We are the Arsenal. Good evening, lads. Evening. How are you? Keith, I owe Eddie an apology. He done good. Yeah, we all kind of do. I've said before, it's big pieces of humble pie all around on some of them signings. Keith, think it more likely Isak. Yeah, I mean, I think probably it's more realistic of the two, especially Barcelona apparently wanted Isak, but they can't get the deal done, and they're apparently going for Morata.
Yeah,
which is interesting. There must be money laundering or something going on with that boy because he's useless. They're going for him. Yeah, they want him from Juventus, and then Juventus apparently want Vlahovic. Or Vlahovic, or whatever you call him. They want him.
Morata's literally played for like almost every single big European side there is. Played at Madrid, Atletico, Juve, Chelsea. Like, it's crazy. I just don't really see the hype, to be honest.
Yeah. Lottie just had a thought. Imagine a Gabriel, Guimaraes, and Martinelli as the spine in the team currently.
Nice Brazilian flair.
Yeah. Lottie hit those likes. Slap them like it owes you money. Slap them like it owes you money. Okay. Yes, for the like button. All right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Man City.
Yeah.
I'm not going to run through sort of incident by incident because as I said to you earlier on, trying to write the timeline for that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
So we'll just talk,
Yeah.
and you guys, if we forget anything that happened, remind us, and we'll talk about it. But I'm going to start, and just very quickly, I'll bring up the lineup. And obviously, Tomiyasu was back. So we were back to the familiar back four with Tomiyasu, Gabriel, Ben White, and Kieran Tierney, and then obviously Ramsdale in goal. We had Party still with us before he travelled off the AFCON alongside number 34. Then you had Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Lacazette as that sort of four up top. When you seen the team, were you happy enough, for any concerns with it?
Yeah, no, I was happy. This team has been, Arteta's been selecting, this group of players for, a number of games. They've been producing, some really good, decent performances, particularly, in attacking play. Obviously, not to forget the defense is still playing well, but the one thing that I was massively criticizing this Arsenal team for was the lack of goals, lack of good, attractive football going forward. But that's definitely kind of rectified itself over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, when I saw the lineup, I just thought, I can work with that. This is a strong team, probably the strongest team we could field. I think the only absence was Smith Rowe, but I completely understood the logic behind it, because Martinelli is just playing absolutely fantastic football, as is Odegaard. So I can understand why, even though Smith Rowe, has scored however many goals and is playing fantastically well, I can understand why he wasn't necessarily in the first team. So yeah, I had no complaints with the lineup, to be honest, none at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, apart from 34, who I'll always have an issue with, and even that, you know what, I'm gonna do something I would very rarely do, and actually say, apart from one sort of incident, which we'll get on to, I actually thought he had a pretty decent game.
He did.
So I have to give him credit where it's due. I thought he had a decent enough game. So overall, in terms of the lineup, you can't really fault it at the minute. It's almost picking itself.
Yeah.
Week in, week out. I still think if we upgrade in the midfield, it will improve us. But the rest of the team, for me, it is picking itself. And even at the minute, he is picking himself because there's nobody else to fill that gap. So we'll talk about, I really want to focus on positives at the minute before we start to go in and the referee and stuff like that. The goal itself, so Saka's goal, really good build-up. White, nicking the ball off in defence, playing through. Odegaard, for me, again, was just controlling so much. You all right? Am I missing?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's my internet or your internet, but it's a bit sketchy at the moment.
Right, okay.
I can hear you, but I'm not sure if it's my internet or your internet. I can never tell when it starts to go.
All right, well, mine seems to be okay because
I think it's Stephen. I think we've lost Stephen. Or is it me? Let us know in the chat, guys. Is it my internet or is it Stephen's internet? I can't really tell. Are you there, Stephen? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds all right. It looks all right now.
You can hear me okay?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if I was out or if you was out. Sometimes I can't tell.
The joys of modern technology, eh?
Yeah, we're all good though now.
Okay. So yes, the build up to the goal. White in the Odegaard. I thought Odegaard really controlled the game so well on Saturday. You're a little fuzzy, G. G is talking but not moving.
It might be mine.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, and Saka's finish was just delightful. The ball in from Tierney. You could argue that he maybe actually mishit it. I know they were trying to say on the commentary that it looked more like he was trying to play it into Odegaard, and maybe slightly overhit it, and it went through to Saka. But either way, it doesn't matter. It was a lovely finish from Saka, finding that gap in the bottom corner. What was your thoughts on the goal and the build up, and how were you feeling at the time?
Yeah, I just think, that goal against City it just kind of epitomizes the way we're playing football at the moment. We seem to get the ball in, at the halfway line, or in the final third of the opposition's half, and it looks like we're going to score. There's so much movement. There's so many players, making runs off the ball, in behind the defense, etc. When that ball went to Odegaard and he played it out to Tierney, there were so many options. There were so many options, and somebody might say, people might say he mishit it, but ultimately, if you play a ball into a dangerous area, that's the key. It doesn't always have to be, pinpoint perfection in terms of the pass. If you play into a dangerous area where you've got, willing runners, you've got, offensive players, who can get on the end of it, that's the most important thing. And boy, did he get on the end of it. It was an absolutely sweet finish. The keeper had absolutely no chance. And what I liked about it is how he took it first time. I think so many times, I watch football, you see players often like to take that first touch, and there are times when you need to take that first touch to kind of set yourself up. But with the pace of the ball and the way he was kind of, where he was positioned, it was perfect to hit it first time, and that's what he did. But yeah, I was thrilled because it's exactly what we deserved in terms of the way we started the game and the way we played. But as much as I went absolutely mental, and I was so glad that we took the lead, I was very, very after we scored the goal, I was very kind of aware that there was a lot of football to be played in the 90 minutes. And I couldn't help but feel like that because of the opposition and who we were playing against. So yeah, I enjoyed the goal. I was absolutely thrilled. We took the lead. I think it was the least we deserved. How we approached the game, but I was very much aware that this is a really good side. Who let's not forget just how good they are in terms of on form and where they are sitting in terms of 8-9 points ahead of the chasing pack. So I was very much aware that it was a bit early in the game, and I didn't want to get too carried away with the goal. But yeah, it was an absolutely beautiful goal from the whole team. From the build up to the through ball to the finish. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah. Okay, let's get a couple of these comments in. So where have we got to? Keith, don't want to have a banned. You'll never get banned for slapping the likes. Canis, how are you? Evening, guys. Happy New Year to you. We are the Arsenal, our best 11. It's nice to see it picking itself every week now. Consistently will drive better cohesion and performances. Haven't had it for years, so refreshing. Canis, you're a little fuzzy G. He's just talking about your beard. That's all.
My dodgy internet.
Daddy Faz, G is talking but not moving. Keith, you're both there.
Cool.
Tom correcting is. Not sure who he's correcting there.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, Ryan, it's not just that it picks itself, but it's probably brilliant 11 that I have faith in no matter who we play. Does this mean, Ryan, that you're coming back to Arteta in?
Possibly.
Yeah. Keith, Laka was pivotal in that goal. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Laka was fantastic, dragging people out of position all game.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. Well, like I said, he's not necessarily contributing with a lot of goals, but he's dragging defenders all over the pitch. They don't know what to do with him. And he's so full of energy as well at the minute.
Different player.
Incredible. Yeah. Ryan, by the way, the scoreboard is wrong. It should be Arsenal 1, Stuart Atwell 2. Yeah, well, we're going to come on to that in a wee sec. AFC Red Room, great pass from Tierney, but clever play from Lacazette to block off the defender to allow Saka the shot. Yeah. Daddy Faz, against City, we were much better in every aspect of our play, and it shows a clear message that Arteta wanted to impose from the very start of his tenure. Yeah, I mean, we are starting to see more and more that we are playing how I think we all sort of in our heads thought we would play.
Yeah.
And I know I sort of said from the very start, that we didn't have the players to play the style of football that Arteta wanted to play.
Mm.
At the time, he was too stubborn to change his style to suit the players. Whereas now he's starting to get most of the players he wants to play his style. And it's brilliant to see all of a sudden, look, we really competed.
Yeah, we did.
I know it's great, and we can give all the plaudits of the day. We still ultimately lost the game, and it was disappointing. But the fact that we are so angry and so disappointed in losing a game against City, the league champions, the team that are blowing everybody else away, had won 10 in a row, and we're seething because we lost to them, just shows how far we've come recently.
Yeah, definitely.
Daddy Faz, the team worked so hard, but we're robbed by a blatant dive leading to the penalty that shouldn't have been given. And Emerson foul on Odegaard. VR and refs are incompetent. Yeah, and we're going to come on to that now in a wee minute, because obviously there'll be differing views. Keith, anti-Arsenal bias. Tom was correcting myself per grammar. No worries. And Scott, morning, guys. Sorry I'm late. No worries. Thanks for showing up anyway, Scott. So I mean, overall, I sort of want to sum up the real positives before we start to talk about the referee decisions and stuff that cost us, because I think we're all probably going to get a bit pissed off again.
I hear you.
And so we'll talk about the positives. So I mean, for me, the performance was excellent. The level of play and the fact that we kept it going for so long. It wasn't just a case of we played well in patches. For me, we outplayed City for probably 80 of the 90 minutes. There was a couple of times when they looked threatening. But for the most part, we coped with everything they had. I mean, you consider we lost 5-0 to them at the start of the season.
Yeah.
To be in that position now, it was incredible. And to a man, there wasn't a bad performance. And and as I've already said, that goes for 34 as well. And it's hard for me to say that, but even he had a decent game.
Yeah.
And apart from his moment to madness, and Gabriel, and we'll come on to it, was playing very, very well. It's just a pity he lost he lost his head a wee bit, and maybe showed a little bit of immaturity. But then I didn't realize, I read a thing earlier on, he's actually played less than 100 top flight games in his career.
Yeah, he's very much, on paper, it's very much inexperienced still.
Yeah, and it's funny because we were putting him into the category of someone who's a potential captain of the team. So maybe, that is maybe a wee bit too soon for him. So far more positives than negatives in the match. A couple of individual moments of stupidity cost us plenty of moments of brilliance that give hope from Scott. Starting to see what Arteta is trying to do now. Yeah, I mean, for me, we've had the conversation before, and you've been very vocal about the fact that you weren't sure in Arteta. I couldn't really see necessarily what was going on. After that performance, can you see now what's happening?
You know what it is? It's like throughout the season, I've seen, snippets of, snippets of what I would say. I can see things. I can see progression. The defense has done really well. There've been performances against the likes of Villa, Spurs, Leicester, where I've thought to myself, right, this is a turning point. I can actually see this is a good performance. I can see what he's actually trying to do. The problem is that's usually been followed up by a poor performance or a couple poor performances. So for me, the issue has been the consistency. And that's always been the issue for me. It's like, there's no point, putting in a good performance and then putting in 2, 3, 4 bad performances, because ultimately you're only going to walk away with, 4 or 5 points from a possible 12. So that was always the sticking point for me. But yeah, in recent weeks, I've seen more consistency, with this Arsenal side. And what I've massively seen is an improvement in the offensive play, coinciding with the good defensive displays as well. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm completely convinced by Arteta, But at the end of the day, you know, results and performances speak for themselves. And that's all, and that's what football's about. Very similar to, you know, I did see a conversation about, I think it was Arsenal, some of the Arsenal signings, and it was like, you know, it was almost like talking about, you know, them being like legends and stuff like that. And I said, we do need to just kind of slow down a little bit. I was like, you know what, I'll hold my hands up and say, you know, I was wrong about Ramsdale. I was wrong about Ben White. I was wrong about these players in terms of, you know, bringing them to the club. I didn't actually believe, you know, most of them would actually improve our first 11, but they have, you know, and I have no problem being wrong about that. But ultimately, they need to do a lot more, you know, a lot more on a consistent basis, season after season, to ever be considered, you know, greats or legends or etc. And I think the same is for Arteta. I think he's come to the club. He's probably, you know, in my lifetime, he's joined the club at, you know, with the club being, you know, at its worst that I can remember in terms of my time being an Arsenal supporter. And, you know, it's been a bumpy road, you know, but I can definitely see, you know, signs of progression. And, you know, if the Arsenal team, you know, continue to play like that and put in performances like that, which they have been doing over the last couple of weeks, then, you know, I'm all for it. And I must admit, you know, I wouldn't, like I say, I'm not I wouldn't necessarily say I'm completely convinced by Arteta, but I'm feeling a lot more optimistic and positive about his management and his coaching at the club than I was, you know, at the beginning of the season or during parts of the early season. So yeah, I'm warming to him. Put it that way. I'm warming to him.
All right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, starting to see what Arteta is trying to do now. That he has Tierney will be the next captain, enough said. So, do you have anything more you want to say in terms of sort of the real positives from the game? Anything you want to sum up or anything?
Yeah, you know what? For me, it's crazy. And I had this conversation with one of my other friends who was an Arsenal fan. And I said, you know, in a crazy way, despite losing that game, that was probably our best performance of the season. And when I first said it, he said to me, what? We lost the game. And I said, but you got to put into context in terms of who we were playing. You know, for the first time in a very long time, we actually competed with, you know, forget a top 6 side, forget a top 4 side, you know, the best side in the Premier League. You know, we competed throughout the match. Even when we went down to 10 men, we competed. We were in the game. You know, I can't remember the last time, you know, I saw an Arsenal team perform to that standard against such quality opposition in the Premier League. So for me, really and truly, it was our best performance this season when I put into context who we were playing against. Also, I'll go as far as to say it's the best performance by any Premier League team this season that didn't result in gaining a point or all 3 points. I think you would struggle to find a better performance over 90 minutes that didn't result in gaining any points, because it was that good. You know, it was that good. I can't fault any of the players. And, you know, it was one of those things where, like you said, you know, I was livid. You know, I think for the first time I actually swore, you know, in a tweet. I don't really do that, and that was about the officiating, you know, during the game. But I was so livid because the performance was so good, because it just felt like an injustice that we could play so well and, you know, give City such a good game and actually not get anything physical in terms of points on the board from it. But yeah, I was absolutely, you know, obviously at the time I was gutted that we lost the game, but I was absolutely thrilled with the performance. Even when the final whistle went, you know, and lots of emotions were running, I was still thrilled with the way the team played. And I even said that I was so proud of the way they actually, you know, approached that and actually played, you know, Man City across the 90 minutes. So lots and lots of positives. I think that, you know, there were moments and incidents where we didn't necessarily manage, and we could have made better choices, better decisions. But on the whole, you know, over the 90 minutes, those 11 players, you know, deserved to be, you know, they deserved, you know, the credit that a lot of Arsenal fans were giving them, over Twitter and social media, because they put in an absolute shift, and they played really well. And despite the loss, I was proud to be an Arsenal fan. Definitely.
Excellent. I can see a lot of people agreeing with you here. So, Tom, Untitled Chapter with Ben Foster's good watch. He's such a top bloke. Can't believe he plays for us. What an amazing signing. Keith G, spot on. AFC Red Room, spot on. G. Jimmy, how are you? The whole interview was quality. Obviously speaking to Tom there. Daddy Faz, well said. G. Brett Martin, evening Brett. Fax, Canis, 100% G. Tom, we were absolutely battering in the first half. I said on Twitter the other day, it's the best performance I watched us play all season.
Yeah, 100%.
Daddy Faz, we need that kind of performance every week from now until the end of the season, and I think we will nick third. Wow, that's a statement and a half. Third.
Listen, we play like that. We play like that week in, week out, which I'm not sure we'll be able to, just given the depth of our squad, mainly the reason being. But yeah, we play like that week in, week out. We're gonna easily make top 4, and we could nick third. We could, because there's no reason why we couldn't. There's enough games, but it's a big if. It's a big if.
Okay. AFC Red Room, if this is what such a young, newly put together team is capable of, the future is bright. Add a bit of experience to this side, and this Arteta project will go bang. And Brett, bring on Liverpool on Thursday.
They're scared.
Possibly. I don't think they want to play us at the minute. Daddy Faz, I'm optimistic. You certainly are. Right. We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to talk about some of the things that impacted the game in a negative way, be it both our own mistakes and obviously the refereeing thing. So we'll have a chat about it. But to be honest with you, G, I think to do this, I'm going to need a drink. So should we go down to the pub?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right.
Just let me get my coat.
All right. We'll take a short break and we will meet you down the pub in a sec. So, welcome back. We've made our way down to the pub. As you can see, we're in the Cannon Chatter Arms, which is where we're going to do our shows from now on. Because do you know what? We figured most of the time we're having a drink anyway, so we might as well do it from the pub.
Definitely. Love it.
Thank you to Martin, aka Gunforce Edits, who does all our graphics for this stuff. It was something that actually Cal, who regularly tunes in, isn't in the show tonight, had said. He had tweeted out the other night saying about this is like it's like being at the pub for him and the sort of pub chat. So we thought, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's take the show to the pub. And as we can't actually be in a pub, this is the next best thing. So yeah, this is the Cannon Chatter Arms, where we will be doing our shows from now on. Right, so the bad stuff. We'll start off with the penalty incident, because obviously that was after about 12 minutes. And Odegaard breaks through into the box, gets brought down by Ederson. At the time, Stuart Atwell waved it away, said no penalty. And we all we all watched it back time and time again. And I'm going to play devil's advocate a little here. From certain angles, it looked like he got the ball. It did, and you can't say otherwise. It's not until you really slow it down and sort of zoom in on it that you see that Ederson plays Odegaard's foot onto the ball.
Yeah.
So it was, it should have been a penalty. And I mean, at the time, I was screaming at the TV. It's a Stonewall penalty. It's one of those things, but I mean, what was your thoughts around it?
Well, my initial reaction was it's an absolute Stonewall penalty. And I can't believe that, one, the ref didn't give it. And two, it wasn't, viewed, by VAR, and they didn't allow the referee to kind of take a second look at it, etc. Obviously, they came up and they said that, VAR had looked at it, but I definitely feel it was one of those incidents that was worthy of the ref, going to the side of the pitch and taking a closer look and so forth. But you know what? It's one of those where I honestly I'm really split. It's one of those where I think it really depends on the team you support. If I'm completely honest, when I'm looking at obviously Odegaard, going through, my initial reaction is it's an absolute penalty, and that's as an Arsenal fan, not even really seeing what has happened. I'm just like, my player's gone down in the box. We're playing Man City. It's a penalty. 100% it's a penalty. You got to give it. But having I've watched it so many times, and despite how many times I watch it and I'm like, well, Odegaard is the attacking player. The keeper comes out, he makes contact. For me, he doesn't necessarily make contact with the ball, and he takes Odegaard out. Other times I've watched it, I'm looking at it thinking, well, Odegaard kind of makes contact with him more than, Odegaard's foot touches the keeper before the keeper touches, Odegaard. So it's like, it's one of those ones where I feel as though a lot of it does depend on the team you support. I think, the fact that it wasn't given, I think as Arsenal fans, we feel really aggrieved. I think had it been the other way round and that be Ramsdale, I think a lot of Arsenal fans, including myself, would have been screaming that, actually, Odegaard, actually, the City player, stood on Alisson. I can actually definitely see it from that point of view. So I honestly believe it was one of those 50-50s. That it really depended, obviously, who it was for and who it was against. At the same time, I just feel like being an Arsenal fan and, supporting Arsenal in those situations, we never get 50-50s. We just never do. I've seen penalties like that be given, for other teams. I've seen penalty claims that are not even anywhere near as close as that being given, for the likes of City and Liverpool and Man United. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I really just think it depends on kind of like loyalty and supporter bias. But yeah, if I'm split on it, in all honesty, Stephen. I don't really know. I would have loved for the penalty to be given. At the same time, I can kind of understand why the penalty wasn't given, having watched it again and again and again and again. My issue is that in that situation, they're not even going to watch it again and again. They're just gonna say it's not a penalty just on the basis that it's an Arsenal player that's fouled in the penalty area. And I don't care if people think that's a ridiculous point of view, because that's my point of view. That's my opinion. I've watched so many games for Arsenal season after season where we just get absolutely, just absolutely, I don't even want to swear. I can't find the right word, but yeah, we just don't get the rub of the green when it comes to VAR and the officials. Yeah, shafted is a good word to use. But yeah, I've just seen it so often, so many seasons in so many games that I just knew we weren't going to get it. And I just think, had that been City and Ramsdale, I think City would have got a penalty, in my opinion. Yeah. But in all honesty, I think it was a 50-50, if I'm honest.
It's the inconsistency more than anything. I mean, I put out a tweet afterwards. It's not just, it's not Arsenal fans, it's just football fans in general. They want consistency in refereeing. Yeah. I think overall, there's certain things, and we'll talk about them, but overall, the consistency of Stuart Atwell's performance was disgraceful. Yeah, it was poor. I mean, how he's a Premier League referee. And I think what annoyed me as well is you've seen now since then that, ex-referees are coming out and sort of backing him and saying, no, all his decisions were right. And I think it's indicative of the state of refereeing in this country that the referees are not good enough, but they're being governed and being supported by referees who were never good enough. Yeah. So it doesn't really say an awful lot when these referees are coming out and backing them. And of course, they're going to come out and back them. Yeah. They're backing their own, and that's understandable. But at the same time, none of them were ever good enough. You know, got Mike Riley heading up the referees, and he was atrocious as a referee.
Yeah.
You know, for years, Man United's best player was Hard.
Yep.
You know, it's just. I'm worried. I'm genuinely worried. And we're not really going to talk much about the Forest game, but we've got Craig Posson as the referee on Sunday for the Forest game.
Mm-hmm.
You know that's frightening, because he's another one who's an absolute clown.
Yeah.
So
as an Arsenal fan, we you know, as an Arsenal fan, it's almost like we anticipate, you know, the announcement of who's officiating the game with such nerves, you know, because it's like we've had so many bad experiences with so many of the Premier League referees or the referees in the UK that it's like a running joke, isn't it? Like it's almost like every single official that officiates an Arsenal game, we can find an example of where we were absolutely shafted by that individual to the point where, you know, we literally, all of us are tweeting, oh God, you know, we've got this to look forward this weekend because this guy's refereeing or that person's refereeing. And it's just a joke. It's just an absolute joke.
Yeah. I mean, so I have to agree with you in terms of the penalty. You know, it was kind of 50-50. It could have gone either way. And I think I'm angry it didn't go our way. But at the same time, it's one of those ones that if it had been the other way around, I'd have been angry if it had been given.
Yeah, it was a tough one. It was a tough one.
I'm going to read one of these comments here in a wee sec. So Keith, cool. Tom, I can't believe you two got a seat in there. It's usually packed out. It is, but we're booking it out now for the shows.
Yeah.
Seeing it's our pub, we'll close it down. Daddy Faz, does the dartboard have a picture of Atwell on it? It should do.
Yeah.
And he's also saying VAR is there to look at these decisions extensively, and if they need to microscopically review it, then that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
It's not the first time this season we have been on the wrong end of VAR. I'm going to be honest. I actually slightly disagree with that statement. In that, for me, the whole point of VAR was for clear and obvious errors. You know, and I think sometimes especially in offsides and stuff, it's not clear and obvious.
Yeah.
And they have been. And again, it's where it goes back to the consistency. Sorry, bear with me 1 sec. Blocking another bot there. It's where we go back to the consistency of, you know, if they go into that level of detail with drawing the lines and everything like that for offsides, and, you know, they can take time and take several minutes. It seemed at times to decide whether someone's been offside or not. Why are they not doing it? Why are they not looking at every angle and slowing it down and stuff? For me, I think it's too much. But if they're not going to do it for everything, they shouldn't do it for anything, or else they have to do it for everything. So I get what you're saying in that statement. But for me, I kind of go on with, well, it should be clear and obvious. And I don't know that it was clear and obvious if you look at it from one or two replays. It would be hard to say it was a clear and obvious error. But just made another comment here, but they're not getting clear and obvious error. Yeah, well, this is exactly
that's the thing. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I put out another tweet over the weekend basically saying you have one referee, two referee assistants, a fourth official, VAR, and goal line technology. And they're still making mistakes. So at what point can we then hold the referees accountable? At what point should the referees have to explain their thought process behind decisions? Because we'll come on to, obviously, the incident where Martinelli had the run round Atwell in the box to take a shot. And again, you know, that cost us. Keith, oh God, not Posson. Klein, AFC Red Room, referees' egos mean that they don't want to be scrutinised, which means VAR will never be used to its full or best potential. They won't let it happen. Mic them up, no chance. After match referees interviews, never. I mean, for me, they should be mic'd up. They're mic'd up in rugby, so why they're not mic'd up in football? And I know, G, you said something to me the other day. Just let me bring that one back up. Yeah, I mean, you had said about Atwell had wanted to be sort of the centre of attention, and that he wanted to be the star of the show. You still hear me okay, or you're going a bit fuzzy again?
Yeah, I think it's playing up again. But you crack on though, because I'm trying to fix it at my end.
All right, no worries. So yeah, G had said to me that he felt that Atwell had sort of wanted to be the star of the show, and wanted the limelight. Where we got to. Refs should do an interview after every game. Yeah, I mean, if they're not going to be held, they have to be held accountable now. They have all the technology going. Why are they not being held accountable? FC Red Room, it's overcomplicated. Why not just simply say that any decision that could have a significant impact on a game, i.e. red card or penalty, must be reviewed by VAR, and the ref has to go to the monitor? Yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of it. When I grew up playing football, you were taught the referee's decision is final and you play to the whistle. They brought in video refereeing and video assistants in rugby, and it works really well in rugby.
Yeah,
but I think
it seems to work everywhere, well, apart from football.
Yeah, well, actually, you say that it works well in football in other countries.
Yeah, true. True.
VAR itself is not the problem. It's the Muppets trying to use it.
Yep.
They haven't got an ounce of wit between them. So, as I say, it's not VAR itself. G looks like he's in Red Dwarf. This is a new thing we're testing out. We may need to get a green screen for this to work a wee bit better. But
I used to love that show.
Yeah, it was a good show on Keith. That's so funny. So yeah, we'll move on. I mean, so obviously there was that penalty incident, and there was obviously then the other penalty incident. And this time it was Silva going down in the box.
Yeah.
And Atwell again waved it away, but VAR looked at it and made him go look at the monitor, and in the end it was given. I'm going to let you go first on this one, in terms of your thoughts behind it and what happened, and your feelings on the players involved.
Yeah.
And Atwell's decision.
Well, when Bernardo Silva picked up the ball in that area, I knew we were in trouble. That's the first and foremost thing. I saw him pick up the ball, and I could see, it was obviously number 34, who was the player that was fast approaching, and my heart kind of sank at that point. Obviously, yeah. So it was a difficult one. I have to admit, like when it first happened, I did see somewhat of a leg, obviously a leg come out with Xhaka, and I knew any slight touch in the penalty area, Silva was going to go down. He was going to go down like a ton of bricks. That was going to be clear. At the same time, when I saw it in real time, I thought to myself, he's dived. He's clearly dived, because it was unnatural movement. You could even in real time, you could see he dived forward, and that wasn't for me the natural movement of the challenge that Xhaka made, if any challenge that he made, because Xhaka was like, he was running towards Xhaka, so it was almost like, if he'd been clipped, he would have just kind of fell. But it was like there was such a movement forward that for me it was an obvious dive. Now, obviously, I was thrilled when the referee waved the game on, and I thought to myself, yeah, no penalty. As soon as obviously the game had been stopped, and there was going to be a VAR check, I just thought to myself, well, we haven't got a prayer here. One, because we're playing City. 2, because the ref had been awful all game. And 3, Xhaka was the player in question. So when I weighed up those 3 things, I just thought, well, this is going to be a penalty without even having looked at the replay. Now, when I looked at the replay, Xhaka stuck out a leg. For me, there wasn't much in the challenge. But the problem I had with what, Xhaka did was where he held the shirt. And as soon as I saw that he had held Silva's shirt, I knew the penalty was going to be given. I just was convinced it was going to be given, and lo and behold, he went over to the screen, and as soon as they go over to the screen, they're going to overturn the decision. It's almost like they don't go over to the screen unless they're going to overturn the decision. So yeah, it was a difficult one, because for me, I'm old school in that he dived. For me, it's clear and obvious that he took a dive, because even the pull of the shirt does not make a player dive forward. It doesn't. That's not. If anything, it's gonna stop you from going forward. It's gonna hold up your player. So if it was a genuine pull of the shirt that affected the way he was gonna play the ball or move with the ball, what he would have done is he would have stopped play on his 2 feet, and he would have put his hands up to say, "Look, can you not see that? Can you not see my shirt's been pulled?" But what he's done is he's dived forward to make an absolute meal of the fact that he's felt a tug on his shirt. It's a completely unnatural response to both the trailing leg and the pull of the shirt. So for me, I'm old school. I think he should have been carded for diving, in my opinion. But by the letter of the law, it's a penalty. Like, it is. Because, not only was there slight contact, but the pull of the shirt, I think it was the pull of the shirt that basically, gave, VAR, the referees, the officials, license to give a penalty in that situation. My question is, what we talk about a lot is, was it clear and obvious? Was it a clear and obvious mistake that the ref actually made? I question that. I question that part. So I think there's been a lot of different opinion on this. Some people have said, no, it's an absolute stonewall penalty. Some people have said, no, it was an absolute dive. It should never have been given. And I think it is just a matter of opinion. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this penalty claim for City. But for me, it when I was playing football at whatever low level it was, you're not going to get a penalty for that. You're going to be told to get up and get on with the game and stop being such a pathetic, excuse of a footballer. But ultimately, the game we play now is so different. The players know this, both the defending players and the offensive players, they know this. So for me, I don't want to be too harsh on Xhaka because he had a good game. And I don't really see the point after that performance, going too ham on him. But it was a poor decision from him to hold Bernardo Silva's shirt at that moment. And I think that was the ultimate reason why he gave the official and the referee, little room to do anything else. They were just waiting for that, to obviously give the penalty. So for me, it wasn't a penalty in my opinion, but I can understand by the rule book and what was seen on the slow motion why the penalty was given. I'll be interested to know what you think.
So I'm going to talk about the decision and Atwell first, and then I'll comment on 34 himself. It was a dive.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. 34 sticks out his leg, but you can see him moving his leg in, and Silva completely bought the foul.
Yeah,
he did dive. As you rightly said, when you go back then and you see the shirt pull, what he's doing, putting his hands on his shirt in the box. And the worst about it was you actually see him and he's got the shirt in one hand like this, grabbing, pulling it, and waving like this. Not what are you doing, you absolute clown?
Yeah.
And I did say on our show last week, he will cost us points against City.
He did.
Because Lottie had asked the question, did we think he'd get sent off? I said, no, he won't get sent off, but he will cost us points.
Yeah.
And I was right. But in terms of Atwell, he waved it off and said, no, not a penalty. He then goes over to the monitor at the advice of the video referee and looks at it, sees the tug on the shirt and decides, well, you have to give a penalty. And I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of debate over people saying it was or it wasn't a penalty. It was a penalty because at the end of the day, hands were on the shirt. He pulled the shirt.
Can't do
Letter
it.
of the law. It's a penalty. I hate to say that against my team, but it was.
Yeah.
My big question is this. If Atwell thought in the first instance that no, it's not a penalty, Silva has dived, why was Silva not, why did he not blow up the game? Because we had possession of the ball. Or, so why did he not blow to stop the game and book Silva straight away for simulation?
No idea.
Because that, again, is the letter of the law. That if he believes the player has dived to gain a penalty, to gain an advantage, he should be booked straight away. So why did he just wave it off and continue running on with the game? So
I don't get it. I don't get why they make any of their decisions, to be
poor
honest.
officiating from a referee who doesn't know the rules.
Yeah.
34, what he was doing pulling the shirt, I don't understand that at all.
You just can't do it.
You just can't do it.
Just can't.
He's supposed to be a senior member of this team, and a lot of people still out there have forgiven him and said, "Oh, he should be being captain, and he's a leader, and he's this and he's that." He's not. He's a stat patter, and he has cost us more points than anybody. He's given away something like 5 or 6 penalties, and it's always somebody else's fault with him.
Yeah.
He will always find a way to put the blame on somebody else. But it's his stupidity.
Yeah. It was a poor decision. Yeah. Poor decision in a really key moment of the match.
Yeah, losing his head. And it's the second time this season against City that he's cost us points. He's cost us the match, effectively, in both games.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't cost us the match against City in the first game because we were already 2-0 down when he got sent off. But it didn't help things. But not only did his mistake cost a penalty, he got himself booked. And he also put Gabriel in a position where Gabriel then lost his head. And at the time, everyone thought Gabriel got yellow carded for roughing up the penalty spot. It turns out it was actually for dissent. He ran up to the ref after the penalty had been taken and the goal scored, and was given a bit of lip and got booked for it. He then, 90 seconds later, gets himself sent off for a foolish challenge. Now, what I would say about that is, for me, that wasn't the sending off.
It wasn't.
To me, Atwell was just looking an excuse to send someone off. He was looking an excuse to how, we finished that game, I think, with 6 or 7 yellow cards, and they had 2.
Yeah.
And they didn't get those until the 94th minute when Rodri scored.
Yep.
And Rodri shouldn't even been on the pitch.
Yep.
After his 2-footed tackle on Martinelli, where we got a corner. We didn't even get a free kick. We got a corner. And I hate to say this again, but if that had been 34 minutes, that tackle would have been a straight red.
Yep.
So what Rodri was even still doing the pitch. And again, VAR didn't call it back for a clear and obvious error. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the rules around that. I know if he gives a yellow card, so obviously if we go back to the Gabriel incident, if he gives a yellow card, VAR can't intervene. It's only if he gives a red card, straight red.
Yeah.
So because it was 2 yellows, VAR couldn't look at it and intervene in any way. But I mean, what was your thoughts around the 2 yellow cards for Gabriel?
Again, it comes with this word, and I think, Daddy Faz has put it in the chat, and it's the key word of inconsistency. We watch football week in, week out. We watch Arsenal week in, week out. And we also watch, highlights or other Premier League games or other, football from around the world or Europe. And if the referees were to book every player for dissent or lip or saying something out of turn, you would never, ever, ever finish any Premier League game in any season with both 11 men on the pitch on either side. You just wouldn't. because I'm sitting at my sitting room and I can hear. I can't hear, but I can see what the players are saying to the ref in terms of swear words. I can see what they're saying or what they're directing, their frustration and their anger towards the refs. You can see it, So for me, like, the whole kind of dissent. I do get it. We need to have discipline within the game, and I don't necessarily know what Gabriel said, but I can't imagine what he said warranted a yellow card. But let's just say it did. Now, take it into context, the fact that his cards were somewhat, glued to his pocket when it came to a City player. He couldn't find them. I think he left them in the dressing room. When you look at the second yellow card for Gabriel, it's about common sense for these referees, and it's like what I said to you about wanting to be the star of the show. Wanting to, the game is televised. You're on a pitch full of, somewhat, 13, 14, maybe world-class players, the crowd's there. And it's almost like you're just becoming a job's worth. You want to be remembered. You want this fixture to be remembered, to be spoken about in terms of your involvement or your input to the game. And at that moment, it's just about common sense. It's like any job when you're working with, people or members of the general public or whatever, whether you're, a doctor or police person or referee, or you're working in, Vodafone, or you're working, in Primark, whatever it is. When you're working with people, you have to have a certain level of common sense. And in that situation, all that ref had to do, because Gabriel is not a dirty player. He's not a dirty player. He's not going in two-footed. He's not nasty the way he plays football. All you had to do in that position was say, look, mate, you're on a yellow. It's your last chance. You're close to going off, because it wasn't a yellow carded challenge that that was a guaranteed yellow card. It wasn't like, he has to go into the book. It wasn't that type of challenge. He was a bit late. He didn't go through the player. They made contact. The City player made a meal of it. But it was one of those situations where, given the intensity of the game, given the spectacle of the game, you could have just said, look, mate, you got a booking. You're going to have to watch yourself. Next one, you're off. That's all you need. That's all he needed to do. But what he did was, like you said, he was absolutely card happy. He couldn't wait to send somebody off. And it was a perfect opportunity to do it. But for the same challenge, multiple times throughout the match, when it was City players doing it to Arsenal players, he couldn't find his card. He wouldn't bring his card out. So it's, again, we just want consistency. The way he booked the likes of Saka and Gabriel in that match, City should have been down to 10 men, and they should have had multiple yellow cards in that game. But he was refereeing the two teams in two different ways. And that's a fact. And I don't understand anybody with any logical sense or common sense or brain cells that can watch football and watch a football game and not see that. I've even seen people that don't particularly say nice things about Arsenal come out and say that refereeing display was a disgrace. I saw Agbon Lahore on TV. Even Agbon Lahore came out and said that game, the way that game was officiated and refereed, was an absolute disgrace. It was completely one-sided. And he can understand why Arsenal fans and Arsenal players were so aggrieved by the way that game was refereed. Agbon Lahore, of all people, who has nothing nice to say about Arsenal. So that's why we were so livid, That's why, as Arsenal fans, we were so angry after that match, because of just the injustice and the inconsistency of that referee. Because had he been card happy with everyone on the pitch, okay, cool, he's card happy, that's the type of ref he is. Some refs are like that. But it was one rule for Arsenal and one rule for City, and that's the problem, and that's why we were so livid.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the fact that he booked Saka.
Yeah.
I can hear your cat in the background.
Yeah. He wants attention.
He booked Saka for Rodri's challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I have no understanding of why he booked Saka at all. I think for me, the big question, really, from the whole thing, is why he was given that game at all. Now, this is a referee who was demoted from the Premier League's list of referees after making so many mistakes, like giving ghost goals.
Yep.
He made that many mistakes that he got demoted from being a Premier League referee. They then have let him back in, and he has been given charge of a match between two of the country's top 4 teams right now.
Yeah.
Albeit, yes, other teams have games in hand that could put them above us, but right now we are one of the top 4 teams in this country.
Yep.
On the balance of football. And how a referee of that standard, that low standard, got that game is beyond me.
It's crazy.
That should have been, much as I'm not as big as fan, that should have been the likes of a Michael Oliver referee in that game.
Yeah.
Someone with a bit of credibility. The problem is that the referees here, they're just not good enough.
Yeah, they're not.
I don't know. So I'm going to read some of these comments because there's one in there I sort of want to touch on. So we'll go back up through some of these. We've got to Red Dwarf. Wasn't she called Holly? She was indeed. Although I think it was Dave was the first original hologram, and then it was Holly.
Yeah, I think so.
Keith, he did dive though. He did, but exactly, Keith. He has to know better than to do that. Is asking for a pen no matter what happens. Poor from him. Combine it with the leg outstretched, we had no chance. Also agree, Keith, he definitely dived, but I think to exaggerate the leg and the shirt pull. Yeah, I mean, as I said, there was no doubt it was a dive, but it was also a penalty because of the pulling of the shirt. I think if he hadn't pulled the shirt, I think the ref would have kept his original decision.
Yeah.
But then why he didn't book him?
The pull of the shirt was just suicide, innit?
Yeah.
It was.
Daddy Faz, 34's positioning wasn't great, but Silva conned everyone with how he went down. Body unnaturally falls forward into 34's leg and is grabbed shirt whilst he is on his way down. Yeah. FC Red Room, timing of it means it's a penalty to me. He dives after 34, grabs the shirt and sticks his leg out to make contact. Agree, Stephen, cannot grab shirts in the box like that and expect not to be potentially punished for it, asking for trouble. And someone of his stature in the game, should know better.
Yeah,
Daddy Faz, it's the key word, inconsistency. Absolutely, and as I say, I put out the tweet after the game, and it wasn't calling. It wasn't even just about the Arsenal match because there was incidents, I think, in the West Ham game as well. It's complete inconsistency all around regarding the referees, that is, yeah. AFC Red Room, very true at Daddy Faz. Daddy Faz, thanks. AFC Red Room. Bring back Kalina. So, this is, and I've said this before, Pierluigi Kalina absolutely you did not mess with that man. But if they'd brought him in 15 years ago, yeah, it's probably a bit late for him now.
Yeah.
But I still, in terms of Kalina, I've said this before, the Premier League markets itself on being the best league in the world. It markets itself on having the best players in the world and the most hotly contested games, and that any team can beat any team on its day, this sort of thing. And they want, the clubs to bring in the biggest stars. Yet they're happy to continue on with this level of officiating. For me, the Premier League needs to be going out, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm sure I'll say it many times. They need to be going out and bringing in the best referees from other countries.
They do.
And having somebody who actually knows what they're doing, heading it up. So if it is the likes of a Kalina or someone like that, someone who is a respected referee, I don't know anybody that would turn around and say any of the referees in the UK are respected referees.
No.
Because they're not.
No.
We need professional referees at a higher standard. And if we're prepared to go out and get the best players in the world from other countries, why are we not prepared to go out and get the best referees from other countries and make our product the best product in the world. Because that's what it's missing right now. You know, we shouldn't be sitting here.
The league is worthy of it.
Yeah, we shouldn't be sitting here talking about refereeing decisions costing us a game or spoiling that match. We should be sitting here praising how well both teams played.
Yeah.
You know, and going, Arsenal matched the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best teams in the world right now.
Yeah.
We matched them. And for most of that game, we outplayed them.
Yeah.
And we should be sitting here rejoicing in that, not moaning about refereeing decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So the FA, the Premier League, they need to go out and get the best referees around the world, bring them in, get rid of the rubbish that we have. Train the rubbish that we have using those referees.
Yeah,
and let them referee, you know, Sunday league football because it's about all they're capable of. But at least give them a bit of training with them.
Yeah.
Tom, I don't know if they showed it on TV. He looked like he was going to book one of the ball boys. He was that trigger happy with his card. I'm surprised also the ball boy didn't flick bird. I think the cards against Gabriel were fair, but it is the fact that City didn't get a card until 94th minute with loads of bookable offences was really poor and is what stinks. Yeah, I mean, for me, I sort of said this, both of his yellow cards where they could have gone either way.
Yeah.
They were sort of 50-50 yellow cards, if that makes sense. You could have given them or not given them.
Mm-hmm.
But you can understand why both were given. But it's the fact that other players, well, City players, weren't getting them.
Yeah.
For doing the same, if not worse. It was the inconsistency in it. From Gabriel's point of view, I think he let himself down a little. I think he got involved. And I applaud the spirit within the team. And I applaud the fact that we're not backing away from things. And I think all too often in the past, we would have just got on with it and not sort of hounded the referee. And other teams do it. Other teams absolutely hound the referee to get decisions to go their way. So why shouldn't we? I don't agree with it from anybody, and I think it should be more like rugby, where they actually respect the referees.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at rugby, some of them referees are a third of the size of the players.
Yeah.
Yet those players would be, I hate to use rude words, but they would be shit scared to talk back to the referee.
Yeah.
You know, because they respect them. They don't respect referees in football, and that's why they approach them. But if every other team's going to do it, then we should be doing it too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to be careful what you say.
Yeah.
And I think that was a little bit of petulance on Gabriel's fault. And it showed his inexperience, it showed his youth. And the mate it said maybe he's not ready to be considered a captain of the team. Certainly a leader as such, but not a captain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Daddy Faz, then it needs to be the best refs in the world to go along with it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. AFC Raider, was it Mark Halsey's comments about refs and spot fixing and bias, etc. back in circa 2013? It becomes more believable, but the game doesn't it? Yeah. Although I think Mark Halsey has come out and said he didn't actually make those comments that are attributed to him. But I would believe that he probably did, and I believe that it goes on. I thought there was one of the referees came out and obviously in defence and saying that referees are not influenced in any way by the bigger clubs and stuff. Just complete nonsense.
Absolute nonsense.
So listen, you guys in the chat, if there's any other incidents we missed, anything else we need to talk about from that City game, let us know now. If not, we'll move on. Anything else you want to talk about in the City game? Anything?
No, like for me, like I said, I was, when the game was over, I was very much disappointed with, obviously, the result. I was disappointed and very angry about the way the game was refereed, the way the game was, officiated. I do feel that, despite. And it's not something I tweeted about because I really didn't want to take away from what was a really good shift and a really good performance from the lads. But I do think on reflection, a number of players will be kicking themselves, when they kind of sit down in their quiet moment and reflect on, that game and how well we played. I think there will be a couple of players definitely that, will be kicking themselves in terms of like some of the decisions that they made. I think obviously Xhaka is one of them. I think, it's always a 50-50, Had he not pulled his shirt, would he have got past him? Would they have scored anyway? But I just think in hindsight, he probably would have thought, that wasn't the best decision in the world. I think, Martinelli has been on fantastic form recently. And I really don't want to criticize the kid because he's done an absolutely fantastic job for us in the last couple of weeks coming into the team, particularly in Aubameyang's absence. But I think there were one or two chances that on another day he tucks away 10 out of 10 times.
Sorry, that is one we maybe forgot.
Yeah,
was obviously Martinelli had the chance to score. The ball was chipped over. I'm trying to remember who it was. Made the effort, and then Aki cleared it off.
I think it might have been Saka, but I'm not sure. But Aki cleared it off the line.
Yeah, it was cleared off the line by Nathan Aki. Comes out, and Atwell for some reason had charged into the box.
I know. Just like, again, he just wants to be in the thick of it all, isn't it?
And Martinelli actually had to go round him.
Yeah.
And they hit the shot, and he hit the bar, or sorry, hit the post. But if Atwell hadn't have been there,
it's a much easier chance.
He basically has an open goal.
Yeah, it's a much easier chance to take. Yeah.
So again, Atwell potentially cost us another goal there. And I don't get what he's doing in the box. For me, a referee should never be in the box unless the game has actually stopped.
It should be on the edge of the area.
Yeah. What he was doing in there was an absolute disgrace because we have goal line technology.
Exactly. He doesn't need to be that close to the action at all.
He can literally look at his wrist and go, no goal.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be in the box.
Yeah.
So again, an absolute shocker from him. It really was. So sorry.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, it's true. It's a point that we didn't cover. So I'm glad you kind of interjected there. But yeah, I do think we could have been more clinical at times. Definitely in the first half. We probably could have been 2, if not 3-0 up by half time. And I think you touched upon it with Gabriel. Had a really, really good game. But I just think, the incident with the dissent and obviously, the challenge on a yellow card, I just think it did show a little bit of inexperience. And he's probably, like I say, in hindsight, on reflections, probably thinking, I probably cost, my team some points today. But like I said, it was such a good performance that I didn't even want to focus on, or kind of scrutinize some of the decisions that, players could have made better ones in certain situations. But yeah, it was a really good performance. I'll stick to what I said. I think it was our best performance this season, given the opposition we were playing. And I'm just gutted, absolutely gutted, that we didn't at least get a point from it, because that's what we deserved at the bare minimum. I believe we deserved all 3 points. But given the 4 minutes that transformed the game, in that the penalty to City, I think the Martinelli miss, with the ref getting in the way, and then Gabriel, I think it all happened within a 4 to 5 minute spell, and that literally just turned the game on its head. But I think what was so inspirational from the lads is that they didn't crumble, they didn't collapse. They kept it tight, they kept it competitive, and albeit a minute or two, we would have got a point out of that match. And that's not something we can always say about Arsenal. So many times we've seen Arsenal absolutely collapse in those situations. So there's a lot of positives to take from the game, and yeah, I'm just taking positives from the game, because I think we can always focus on the negatives, but I just don't think it was that type of performance to do that. I think there was despite the result and despite the fact that we never took any points from the game, there was still so much positive to take from it in terms of the players' performances. Odegaard was brilliant again. Partey was absolutely phenomenal. Probably his best game in an Arsenal shirt. So yeah, horrible result, but great performance from the lads. They showed real spirit and real fight.
And again, it's funny you said about Partey, and that's exactly the point I'm making, is that we should be sitting here being able to celebrate a great game. Even
we haven't even spoken about him. Do you know what I mean?
Even if we legitimately lost the game, on the balance of play, you know, and had, if they'd scored 2 goals, and you kind of go, right, well, they scored 2 goals, it was fair. The fact that we're sitting here talking about the fact of injustice and things not being fair and stuff, and we're not then talking about the fact that Partey had probably one of his best games in an Arsenal shirt.
He was phenomenal.
Controlled the midfield. You know, it's such a shame. It really is, and it just takes the gloss off it.
Yeah.
And takes the gloss off of what's happening around the club at the minute. But yeah, everything else you say, absolutely right. So some of these comments. Gary, Happy New Year. Stephen G in the chat room, Happy New Year to you too, Gary. Tom, who threw the toilet roll, and how are we getting fined for that when Ramsdale picked up £17 the other day against Leeds? Yeah, again, inconsistency. What I would also say is, you know, Rodri got booked for taking off his shirt, but why he didn't get sent off for going over, sliding on his knees and celebrating like that in front of the Arsenal fans?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the City fans were at the opposite side.
Yeah.
Why wasn't he running over to the City fans? He went over to incite the Arsenal fans.
Exactly.
And again, if that had been an Arsenal player, you know, they'd have been getting 2 yellows for that. AFC Red Room, how do you think Stuvenberg managed in such a big game in place of Arteta? A lot of pressure. I thought he handled it well. He was good with the media, I thought, and liked his post-match debrief. Yeah, I thought he did very well. Yeah,
he did. Did very well. I was actually quite worried that Arteta wasn't going to be there. And if I'm honest, like, as much as I predicted like a 3-2 win and stuff, and you know, I always back my boys, but in its, you know, slight thought at the back of my mind was I was a bit worried that Arteta wasn't going to be there, because you know, it does have an impact. You know, when you don't have your coach or your manager there, you know, on the touchline, it can have an impact, especially where we are such a young side. It could have, but I think that was just testament to the way the guys played. You know, it's the fact that, you know, Arteta wasn't on the touchline and they put in such a brilliant performance. I said it just says a lot. So, but yeah, he did good. He did good. I thought, he handled it well, pre-match, post-match. So yeah, good job.
Okay. Daddy Faz, Atwell needs investigating. Yeah, absolutely.
He does.
I did say again in a tweet after the match, did anybody check his bank accounts?
Yeah.
Gary to AFC Red Room, Free Stew, Arteta should sit and let Stuvenberg work during games. AFC Red Room, hi Gary, LOL, AirPod Albert. I'm at AirPod Stew, you mean? AFC Red Room, Partey was a boss, immense performance. Keith, Partey was awesome. He was, absolutely. Well, listen, we'll move on quickly. It's kind of conscious of time. And obviously, Tom, night peeps, catch you soon. I just seen the time. Keep up the good work and remember to cash up before you leave. We will indeed, man. Will indeed. Got to clean the pumps and stuff yet. So
yeah.
So I am conscious of time, and obviously we still have the touch on the Liverpool game. And obviously it's come out tonight that they have put in a request to the EFL to have this game postponed. Bunch of whining big girls' blouses at Liverpool. 100%. Do you know, as a kid, I was brought up thinking Liverpool was full of tough, hard men. And honestly, it's any excuse at the minute to bitch and whine and moan about anything. I said the other night, Klopp's starting to do my head in. He really is. He really is turning into the new Mourinho in terms of the amount of whinging and whining he's doing. I mean, what's your thoughts if this game gets postponed?
It's pathetic, really. And you know, from I've heard mixed, obviously, reports. What we do know is that Liverpool have put in an application to obviously postpone the game, based on, and like I say, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but they've got, albeit it's not just COVID cases, they've put it on the grounds of injuries as well as players, that are absent due to AFCON. And I just think that the Premier League, the EFL, all these kind of organizations need to be very careful in terms of in terms of opening the floodgates. Because the way I look at it is, if Liverpool can get this game postponed based on what we know or what is common knowledge at present, obviously that might be inaccurate. It might change. Who knows? They might have had another 15 COVID cases or something like that. But if it's based on just what we know at this present moment, I don't have any idea how we're going to get through this Premier League season. I literally have no idea how we're going to actually play the games that are left. Because, if this game is postponed, all the teams in the Premier League on a weekly basis are going to be like, you know what? We've got 6, 7, 8 players out, squad of 25 plus the under 23s and under 18s. But yet, we're not fit. We don't have a fit enough squad to play the game. It's just crazy to me, and, there's been a lot of debate on Twitter, obviously since this news broke. And, I even put a tweet up about, Leyton Orient. I know we've spoken about this kind of off air, off Twitter, WhatsApp, over the phone, etc. And it just leaves a real kind of bad taste in your mouth, because it's almost like there's one rule for one team and one rule for another, and it's merely based on the size and reputation of a club. And I said to you earlier when we was WhatsApping, I was like, for Leyton Orient playing Spurs, that was going to be their biggest game of the season. Both as a spectacle for their fans, but also financially in terms of what that would have done for that club. But they were forced into a position where they had to, forfeit the game. And it's like now all of a sudden there's somewhat of a rule change and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, you know what? Rules, let's face it, rules and laws are brought in to benefit those at the top. And right now, Liverpool are at the top and Man City are at the top. These are the teams that are the pinnacle of English Premier League football right now. So, those rules and laws that are changed or tweaked or ignored, or some kind of grey area or loophole, it's to benefit those clubs that are at the pinnacle of football. We saw it when Fergie was in charge of, some of the past United sides, the whole Fergie time, and stuff like that. It became common knowledge that, they were treated, they had preferential treatment. And that's what you're seeing here. For me, I have not seen or heard or read anything that should suggest that this game should be postponed. Maybe that will come out over the next coming days, and it will be very interesting to see whether this game is actually postponed. But I put out another tweet because I wasn't very happy when this news broke, and I said I'll be more shocked if Liverpool are made to play the game than if the game is actually postponed. And I think that just says everything about the state of football at the moment, and particularly with some of the, the hierarchy of English football, with some of the top teams, in the Premier League. So I'm not a fan of it. I want the game to go ahead. At the same time, I've almost resigned myself to the fact that this game is going to be postponed, and it's going to have to be played, on a separate occasion. So yeah, I don't know what more else I can say about it. Really, I just think it's absolutely pathetic that we find ourselves in a position where, a club of Liverpool's size and resources want to postpone a game. Basically don't want to turn up to work and do a job. I just think it's absolutely pathetic. When there's so many people out here that have just, like me, like you, got regular 9-to-5 jobs, and we just got to get on with it. Doesn't mean if our colleague hasn't got COVID, or if our colleague has COVID, the colleague isolates for 10 days. It doesn't stop the fact that I've got to go in and do a shift. So for me, it just I don't understand why footballers are any different. If Klopp's got COVID, Klopp should be isolating. If Fabinho's got COVID, he should be isolating. The whole 25-man squad or 40-man squad that they do have at their disposal don't need to have the night off. So it's just absolutely ridiculous to me. And I just think sometimes, we almost see football as this different entity to the rest of real life. but it's not. It's just real life, and we're all out here, you know, having to earn a living, having to pay our bills, etc., etc. We're not even in a privileged enough position to just say, "Oh, we're not going to go to work." But these guys are, because their bank accounts are somewhat in a better position than ours. But yet they're still whining and moaning about playing a game on a Thursday night because a couple of their first team players are out injured. It's just a joke. It's just an absolute joke. And what's more of a joke is that the EFL are actually entertaining this nonsense. And the worst part of the joke is that they are going to postpone the game. Because let's face it, we all know that's what's coming. So yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous in my opinion.
Okay. Before I have a bit more of a say on it, I'm going to read some of these comments. Keith, Liverpool using the system tossers. I assume that you're calling them tossers and not us. I know it is. AFC Red Room, disappointed if it gets postponed. They have the depth to play it, I think. Running scared of us, a team in form. But like Wolves were the other night. Really, why aren't they asking to postpone their game against Shrewsbury on Sunday? Absolute joke. Exactly.
Yeah.
AFC Red Room, it will end up as 5-a-side for the rest of the season. Really, play your reserves or forfeit the game, no excuses. They also trying to postpone the game so they can get Salah and Mane back from AFCON. And Villa had to play their academy against Liverpool in the FA Cup, then Liverpool can do the same. So yeah, there's a couple of things there. Obviously, you mentioned the Spurs against Orient game. There was Villa having to play their under-18s basically against Liverpool.
Yep.
And in fact, Liverpool were able to play their under-18s in a match whenever they were off chasing money at the World Club Cup last season.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no issue with it then. The thing with it is all of those incidents happened last season.
Yeah.
So they're not this season. So we have to be careful because the rules did change, obviously, over the summer. And whilst we can all sort of go back to them and go, well, you know, this is precedent has been set. It was last season. That said, there is actually precedent this season for it in this very competition. So in the first round, and I'm sure there's probably not a lot of people actually know this because it's not sort of something that, unless you follow lower league football, that you maybe would be aware of. And this actually goes to show some of the effort we do actually put into research in this show. Haringey Town had to forfeit their game, their first round tie against Rochdale, because they couldn't field the team because of COVID. The EFL said to them, if you can't play the tie, then you have to forfeit the game. So precedent has been set this season, not just last season, but this season, the precedent has been set. Why they can't, as you said, play, you know, younger players, it's an absolute joke. I get you can argue for the integrity of the competition, but at the same time, if you want to argue that, have Liverpool played a full strength side in every game that they've played?
Exactly. He didn't. Klopp didn't even turn up for one of their ties in the Carabao Cup a couple of seasons ago.
A lot of the top teams don't take this competition seriously until they get, and if they get to the latter stages, then they start taking it seriously. Arsenal have put out pretty much a full strength side against everybody we've played. Like we put out a full strength side against West Brom, and we beat them. What was it, 5-6-0? You know, we've been putting out full strength teams. So the fact that Liverpool have now decided that they want to turn up and show up in this competition, tough luck.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether that's what you want or not. If you're scared to play us without Mane and Salah, that's your problem. But they have a large squad. They have under 23 players. They should be playing. And I go back to what you were saying then about, you know, sort of we're everyday people and we have to get on with things. Just to explain, I mean, the way we're working and work at the minute is, so I'm back working in retail. We have Team A and Team B in our shop. So we have split our staff in two. And Team A will not work with Team B.
Mm.
So if Team A is in the shop, Team B won't be in the shop. They'll be at home or wherever. So it means if one person in Team A comes down with COVID, then the rest of the Team A can self-isolate, and go and do their tests and whatever they have to do to be able to then get back. But it means you're only losing half your team.
Yeah.
So why, the under-23s at Liverpool shouldn't be training with the first team.
Yeah.
Separate them. So if something happens to your first team, well, your under-23s can go and play in their place then.
Mm-hmm.
They're professional footballers.
Yep.
They may not have the experience, but they're still professional footballers. And if they're good enough to be professional footballer at a club like Liverpool, then they damn well should be good enough to play in the Premier League. They damn well should be good enough to play in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup.
Yep.
If you're saying that your under-23s aren't good enough to play at that level, what are they doing at your club?
Yep.
So, yeah, I will be highly pissed off. The other thing as well is, in terms of if the EFL let them postpone this game, then the return leg next week, does it go ahead?
This is the problem.
Or
this is the problem.
Does it mean that we get to play the home game next week?
This is the problem.
And then we have to fill in the away leg somewhere else?
Yeah. If anything, it's realistic that it would probably become a one-off, 90-minute game.
But it can't, unless the other, unless the Spurs-Liverpool game. And as far as I know, that's going, or not Spurs-Chelsea game, as far as I know, that's going ahead tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So I know,
I don't know what they're going to do.
I think the Spurs were potentially going to try and call that one off, but I don't think it's happening.
Yeah.
So unless they're going to change theirs to a one-legged thing, and they can't do that at a minute's notice.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing is, Liverpool I'm sure have been selling tickets for their match next week. They're not going to want to have to turn around and start refunding everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Are they? So they're going to want to play the two legs, but they need to play now.
Yeah, the game just needs to be played.
We were going to do predicted lineups and stuff for it and all, but at the minute we don't even know what's going ahead, so we're not going to waste time.
Yeah.
There's just no point. Read a couple of these comments. Where have we got to? Keith, Scousers, Tossers. That's what we thought. AFC really giving a wave there. Really, hi Matt, good vibes. Nice to see you here. Same old Liverpool, always the victims, never the offenders. Do you know, I think 34 would fit in well at Liverpool. He's got that sort of mentality. It's never his fault. AFC Red Room, likewise, really. I had some rare evening time to catch up with some awesome podcasting, so making the most of it. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment for us. And really, I also saw that Liverpool have used a total of 30 players in the Cup this season. Yeah, so if you're telling me that they can't put out 14 of those, because that's all they need is 14.
Yeah, that's it. 14 players. It's just madness.
And the thing about it is, the Carabao Cup, it's not like the Premier League, and it's not like European competition where you have to register a squad at the start of the season to play in that tournament.
Yeah.
You can play anybody you like in that tournament, as long as they're an official, part of your club.
Yeah.
So whether that's a registered player at your club, permanent, or a loan player at your club.
But that's what I mean. I just feel like if this tie is postponed, I honestly don't know how we're going to finish the Premier League season. Yeah. I don't know how, because like I said, with a club of Liverpool size and the resources they have in terms of players available for this game, if this game is postponed, then I don't know why, the likes of however many Premier League sides are going to come out and say, hold on, we've got 6 first-team players out. We can't play this game. We've got 7. We've got 5. We can't play this game. It's going to completely open the floodgates. And what's going to be the response, to that level of applications from teams, going in saying, well, actually, looking at what happened with the Liverpool situation and the EFL, we have an argument to say that this game shouldn't go ahead. And I don't know where all these games are going to be replayed. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just not looking good. It's not looking good for, obviously, this match. But it's not even looking good for even the Forest game at the weekend, and potentially even the rest of the league, to be honest.
Yeah. And we could go into, obviously the UK government has a lot to answer for. In the sense that it just looks very much now that it looks increasingly more and more that they just want everybody to get coronavirus. They want everybody to have COVID and get a natural antibody to it, because it may be the only way to defeat it. And because they're obviously not doing anything to try and stop the spread of it. Because they could do a lot more, and they're not doing it. So,
it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Because Forest's last league game was postponed against Burnley due to a COVID outbreak. So, it's not looking good at all for the next 2 games, really.
TSG22_HD. Ethan, how are you? Stephen, I sent a tweet about the situation. I think Arsenal won't forfeit it. If the Forest game gets postponed, then Gabriel will miss the North London derby. Well, this is the other thing, and that was something I was going to say. To me, that's not fair.
Yeah, the ripple effects.
Yeah, he should be missing this game, and I think there should be something in there that if that game's postponed, and it's not through our doing, if it's because Forest are asking for the game to be postponed, then there needs to be an allowance made for Gabriel's red card. Because it's not his fault that match isn't going ahead, and that's the match he should be suspended for.
Yep.
So let me just TSG's. Arsenal has contacted EFL Comms about Liverpool's recent postponement request. Arsenal are pushing for a forfeit as club believe they can field enough players to warrant game to go ahead as planned. So there we go. Thank you for that. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And I hope Arsenal are pushing. I really do. Because we get walked over all the time, so it's time to stand up and not let it happen. So, right. Listen, I think that's kind of it, because we've been on there 2 hours now. And as usual, we could probably do another hour of this quite easily. Really absolute shambles. Guys, if you have any last questions for us or comments, drop them in the chat now. And while you're doing that, G, can you do the honor of telling us some socials?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys for tuning in. It's always an absolute pleasure doing these live streams with Stephen and Lottie. And it's just great, having so many of you kind of, join us for, the 2-hour shows. Albeit we try to shorten them, but not with much luck at the moment. But yeah, no, it's always great having you and interacting with you guys with your comments and your questions. So thank you so much. For those of you who don't know, we are on all the kind of usual social media platforms. So we're on a Facebook, which is at Canon Chatter. Our Instagram account is at Canon_Chatter. And we have a TikTok account, which is at Canon_Chatter. Most of you will know us from Twitter. That's where I don't say the vast majority, because all our content is put out on the social media platforms, but that's where it all kind of started. And that's where we do interact with the vast majority of you that, do tune in and watch with regards to our tweets and stuff like that. So if you're not following the Twitter account, please do follow the official Twitter account, which is at Canon Chatter. Stephen can be found at SB Canon Chatter. So if you're not following Stephen, give him a follow. If you're not following me, give me a follow, and you can find me at G Talks Arsenal. And also in Lottie's absence, she will be back with us hopefully very, very soon. If you're not following Lottie, who is also one of our hosts, obviously follow her at Lottie_B. That's 2 T's, 2 I's, because somebody beat her to it. And we got confirmation that I think Lottie's blog posts are all kind of up to date with regards to all the kind of recent events with Arsenal's, reaction to games and stuff. So if you fancy a bit of reading, head over to lottieafc.blogspot.co.uk. And lastly, obviously, make sure you guys are subscribing for obviously for whatever reason, if you're not subscribing to the actual official Cannon Chatter TV, channel, which you're now watching, make sure you do please subscribe to the channel. We massively, like I said, appreciate all your support. So please do get subscribing. Do turn on those notifications, because that way you kind of get up to date, notifications of when we're putting videos out, what time, the content, etc. And obviously hit that like button. Most importantly, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and hit that like button. But yeah, you can just follow the Twitter, and you'll get all the kind of up-to-date latest information in terms of what we're doing with regards to next shows. I don't know what we're even going to be doing on that note. So quick one, Stephen. If the game is called off, we'll probably just do a show on Friday night anyway, won't we?
I'm not sure if we'll do one Friday or possibly Thursday, as I have been asked to go on another show on Friday night at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Cool. So it'll depend if the game's called off. We'll maybe do the Forest preview on Thursday night if you have time.
Yeah. No problem.
We'll play it by ear. Just one more thing. Lottie had sent a wee thing earlier on. Remember that the FPL West Ham players have a double game week, and game week 21 ends Wednesday night, I think, because their replay against Norwich is then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Last couple of comments then. AFC Red Room, thanks for a great show, guys. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in and being with us for the whole show. Keith, great show, guys. Got to get up early in the morning. No worries, Keith. So do I.
Same.
And really, cheers, guys, and everyone in the chat. Pop stuff. Thank you. So listen. As G says, we don't really know when we'll be back because of COVID is affecting our shows as well. What am I doing? Sorry. COVID's affecting our shows as well, so we don't know. We just play it by ear, but keep an eye on the socials. We'll let everybody know as and when we know when we'll be back. G, any sort of last comments you want to make?
No, just obviously thank you guys for tuning in. It's always a pleasure, doing these shows and interacting with you guys. Obviously not the result we wanted, but the lads put in a really good performance, and I just hope that the Liverpool game does go ahead, and we've got that to look forward to. But until next time, obviously, stay safe, and just keep interacting with us on Twitter. But yeah, have a good evening, guys.
Okay. Just to echo that, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being with us the whole way through and interacting. And now you know where to come. Keep an eye out and get yourself down to the Cannon Chatter Arms, grab a drink, grab some crisps, nuts, whatever it is, and make sure and keep watching all the shows. And other than that, stay safe. And until next time, keep chatting.